stop this morning. I'm glad to see everybody here on a cold day. As we get started, let's stand and go for prayer, please. Jesus, we just thank you for another Sunday, Lord, another day in your house, Lord. And I pray, Lord, that this day, our hearts are filled with joy and love, Lord. And for some reason, Lord, they're not, Lord. I pray these things to the altar, Lord. Lay them at your feet, Lord. Let us go to you first in all things, Lord. And today is a day that is a new day that we can start again. Lay all our things at your feet. Thank you, Jesus. We pray for this service and this worship, Lord. Let us be free to worship in your name, Jesus. We pray. Amen.
Amen.
In my sorrow, dead in my sin, lost without hope, with no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested, my life began. Ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. My orphan heart was given a name. My mourning grew quiet, my feet rose to dance. When death was arrested, my life began. Oh, your grace, so free, watches over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was a ransom he paid for me, Lord. He canceled my debt and he called me his friend. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace so
sick, huh? You got the flu?
I don't know. All I know is he went over to his mom's house and he texted me yesterday, said he was running a fever, and him and his sister were both sick. So.
What are you doing all bundled up? What are you doing when winter gets here, brother?
Hate not working back here? Hey.
What?
I lived in Pennsylvania. I know cool weather.
They're getting it now, buddy.
I know.
Morning.
I pray today, God, you would bless this offering.
you continue to use it to build your kingdom, to build people, not buildings, God. And I thank you for that, God, and I pray that you would receive it this morning, God. And I pray that in everything that we do today, it brings glory and honor to you. For those who are sick, I pray you would be a healer to them, God. For those who are lonely, I pray you would be a friend, God. And for those who feel like orphans, I pray you would be a father today. In your name I pray. Amen. God will meet you here, and we will pray for you this morning and believe
the only one who could ever say, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes.
pray. Lord, we love you, and we thank you for this moment that we've had with you, God. You are a firm foundation. You are something for us to build upon. We have our hope and our life in you, and you are doing something in us and through us, what? To bring your purpose and to bring your glory, God. So help us to realize that we're not small, because you've made us great. In your name I pray. Amen. Kids, you can be dismissed. And adults, you can have a seat. Let me show you this scripture this morning. Matthew 25, 35 through 40. Then the king will say to those on the right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him and say, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing and clothe you? When did we see you sick in prison and go to visit you?" And the king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Jesus said, if you've done it to the least of these, you've done it to me. We're so quick to forget that the reason that Jesus came was for people. He came for people. He said he came to seek and to save that which was lost. And if you want to win the heart of someone, this is what you got to do. And this works in any kind of relationship that you're in, no matter what's going on. Love what they love and torment what torments them. If you want to make a relationship with somebody, love what they love and torment what torments them. If my son wants to make me happy today, he will love what I love and torment what's tormenting me. If his little sister's loud, he'll pull her to the side and take her to play somewhere. Why? Because it's tormenting me, so he torments it. What am I going to do for him? Oh, I'm going to bring him great favor. See, if we want to love the Lord, we got to love the things that he loves. See, when we serve, we need to get the big picture. If we become too earthly minded, what we'll do is we'll forget the ones we are serving for, Jesus actually died for. And also, we might actually miss what Jesus is doing. Look at this verse here. Keep on loving one another as brothers and sisters. Do not forget to show hospitality as strangers, for by doing so, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. So when God takes you out of your comfort zone and he says, go over here and serve this person, you say, I can't serve that person. Don't forget this verse. Who knows what you may be entertaining? And then you say, oh, Pastor, I don't know if we've ever seen angels. Well, do you believe it or do you not believe it? Because it says that's the case. And I just wonder one day, right now some things are hidden. But one day all the veil's going to be removed and God's going to show me exactly what was what. And he's probably going to show me, remember that time you did that? That was an angel. Remember that time? That was an angel. See, when we choose to serve people, we serve the Lord and possibly entertain angels. We won't understand the impact in this life, but we'll see it clearly one day. And what I know more than anything is you can't love God and hate people. Like people get on my nerves, people drive me crazy. Well, you better get in the heart of Jesus. Because people are the reason he came. And we need to approach every opportunity with our best. God loves his people deeply and personally. And when we serve them, we're serving him. Look here, Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. Look at the last part. It is the Lord Christ you're serving. Well, how am I doing it? Well, when you get to the least of these. Well, I hate my boss. He drives me crazy. He's on me all the time. What are you supposed to do? I'm supposed to serve him. But it's tough. Yeah, it's tough. But I'm serving Jesus. When did you feed Jesus? When did you clothe Jesus? You did it when you served the least of these. Jesus said this, Matthew 23:11, the greatest among you will be your servant. And then he went out and lived it. See, Jesus takes it personal when we serve people. He loves them so much he's happy when we serve them. So what are you saying, Pastor? I'm saying that when you invest in people, you invest in the kingdom of God. If you want to touch the heart of God, touch the heart of people. In 2019, your life can be radically changed. And this is the moment that it's going to happen when we begin to have a real desire to add value to other people. Our life will incredibly change. We do pretty good in our homes, a lot of us. I can add value to my children. I can speak life into them. I can do things to them. I can add value to my wife. I can tell her how great she is to me, how precious she is to me. But what about the stranger that doesn't like me, or the man who's dirty, or the person that doesn't fit into my perfect little mold of what my little life's going to be like? See, when those things happen, we forget that we need to add value into them as well. And you know what? Sometimes it's even add value when you have to tell them something they don't necessarily want to hear. How can I be a better servant for the Lord? I want to show you today two approaches that'll help you serve better. Two approaches that'll help you serve better. All right. The first one is servant leadership. Servant leadership is going to help you serve better. In the story of Jesus, as Jesus is preparing to go to the cross, there are two forms of leadership that are shown. One leaves us with an example that will change the world, and the other shows us some leadership that is leadership in title only. Let's walk through the first one here. John 13, verses 2 and 3 says this, the evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. And Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. And so he got up from the meal, he took off his outer clothing, and he wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He dried it with the towel that is wrapped around him. Here is Jesus, okay? I want you to get this in your mind. This is the one whom in John chapter 1, it says, in the beginning was the Word of God, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and he, being this Jesus, was with him in the beginning. And now, he is kneeling down on the dirty floor to serve his disciples. servanthood to Jesus. It's who he is. He lives out what he says when he says the greatest will be a servant. See, we want to serve people who are good to us, but real leaders value people even when they fail you. You want to change somebody's life, let them treat you like garbage and then try to value them. Jesus already knows that Judas is going to betray him. So what's he do? He washes the feet of the betrayer. Jesus already knows that Simon Peter is going to deny him and curse about him and lie that he even knows him. And what does Jesus do? He washes his feet. And then others, other than John, who was at the foot of the cross with Jesus' mother, everyone will forsake him in his darkest hour and flee for their own safety. And what does Jesus do? He washes their feet. The King of Kings is the greatest because he became the servant of all servants. And we want a high and lofty title, but the King of Kings is washing feet. Do you understand this morning? It's quiet in here, and I feel like it's a little better than that. The servant leader is this. It's servant first. The difference manifests itself in the care taken by the servant first to make sure that other people's highest priority needs are being served. That's what the elders do here. We look at your needs before our own, and we say, what is going to be best for you? And then we put the church in a position to help you prosper. It is servant-first leadership. Let us go. Let us go deal with the difficult things. Why? So you don't have to shoulder them. The servant leader gets in the mud and the muck, the mess of life, and gets below the person and pushes them up. They get involved in their mess before they get involved in their miracle. Some leadership wants to lead you like this. Come up here. Come up here. But what happens to most leaders is they get pulled down here. Servant leadership does this. It says, oh, I'm going to get under you. I'm going to get down on my knees in the dirt. And I'm going to elevate you. It's going to be difficult on me. I'm going to take the pain. But when I do, it's going to put you to the next level without any effort from you. Traditional leadership generally involves the accumulation and exercise of power by one at the top of the pyramid. And servant leadership is different. Servant leadership values people over process. And Jesus was the master. Now let me show you the other side of leadership. It's a top-down form of leadership. In other words, I have a title, so I have a right. You ever know anybody like that? Yeah. Everybody goes, oh man, I work for them now. But I have a title, so I have a right. Look at this, Matthew 27. Which of the two do you want me to release to you? Asked the governor. Barabbas, they answered. What shall I do then with Jesus, who is called the Messiah? Pilate asked. They all answered, crucify him. Why? What crime has he committed? Asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, crucify him. And when Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but that instead an uproar was starting, he took water and he washed his hands in front of the crowd. And he said, I'm innocent of this man's blood. It's your responsibility. See, the difference here is when the situation heated up, Pilate was focused on his own well-being more than being ethically and morally right. For Pilate, it was on. He thought it was a symbolic gesture would somehow remove his responsibility from his actions. An innocent man would die, but like many other cowardice leaders who lead by title only, he would only try to cover his own guilt. See, Jesus is the ultimate picture of servant leadership. He went to the cross and he took on guilt and shame that wasn't his. But Pilate is the opposite of that. He put the responsibility and the power of his decision on the backs of his people. Why? To cover stains that belong to him. So my question is this. You got Jesus. He's over here. He's got a basin of water and he's washing people's feet. You got Pilate over here. He's got a basin of water and he's washing his own hands. And I would ask you this. What you going to do to your basin? Your basin is your platform of influence. It's the tools that you have to work with. It's your motivation. Both had the same thing in their hands, but used them differently. Jesus, he washes the feet of his disciples. He washes his disciples' feet with his basin, but Pilate turns around and washes his own hands. And I'd ask you this, it's like, what kind of leader do you want to be? What kind of leader do you want to be? I'll tell you what, Pilate ain't changing people's lives today. The things that Pilate did, or they may be written down in some book somewhere, but he is not the king of all kings. He's not the greatest. He has no more influence. He didn't come through a cross and burst out a grave. But the greatest of all greatest, the king of all kings, took his basin of water and he knelt down and served those that he loved. See, servant leadership really changes people. For the disciples, what it did was it rerouted their destiny. And Jesus was the most effective leader because he was the most loving servant. How do you be a great spouse? Serve as much as love. How do you be a great mother? Serve as much as love. How do you be an influential father? You serve the ones you love. Because let me tell you, every time that I serve the ones I love, I've got 3 sets of eyes that watch me, and they look to me, and you know what? They'll mimic what they see. How I speak to my spouse will be how my children speak. How I walk in this church will be how my children walk. Why? Because eyes are watching me. And servant leadership says, watch me. I will show you how to do it. I will be the servant so that you can receive praise. But unless the servant was there, they would have no platform to receive that praise. Let me show you another side of this. You have servant leadership. The next group is this. The ministry of presence. Ministry of presence. You have servant leadership that says, I get down in the mud. But the ministry of presence is this. I may not know anything else to do, but I show up. Matt, how do you choose those to lead with you? I look around and whoever's there, I grab. Why? Because warm bodies are hard to find. The other night, as I found out about Buddy, I arrived at RMC, and they moved us to the family room at RMC. And that sounds like a good thing, but let me tell you, the family room is never a good thing. Nobody wants to be in the family room. The last time I was in the family room, I was in there with Chase, with you, and we were hearing the news about Beth. And both times as I'm going into the situation, I always have this mentality. See, I'm just normal like you guys. I don't know if you get, when you get pastor, you don't get some kind of great book of tools and answers, and you don't know all the problems. I'm still mad. I'm 35 years old, and I don't have all the answers. And as I'm going in there, I wonder what I do. The same thing. The answer is always the same. I go, what can I do? But see, with the ministry of presence, there's nothing I can really do. But I can be there. I can be there. You can't influence where you're not. And so I come in, and I sit, and I pray. We have this idea that we need all the answers before we ever move in any direction. But you think you need the title of pastor or deacon. But I tell you, I lived a long time before I was a pastor. In the ministry of presence, you just got to show up. This church did a good job of showing up the other night. This church did a good job of showing up during the week. Those who were there that night, we couldn't do anything. It was out of our hands. I didn't have words to say, and they didn't need to hear them anyway. And sometimes to be Jesus, you just got to show up. We go to difficult places. You know why? Because when we show up, people feel our presence. When we show up in pain, people feel our presence. You know, in the book of Job, we give his friends, you know the story of Job. Job is put through all these difficult things. He loses his children. He gets beat down. He breaks out the sores all over his body. And then his friends come to comfort him. And we get kind of frustrated with him because they start telling Job that he's sinned. And we know he hasn't sinned. But they don't know that. And we get all frustrated. But let me tell you something that they did right. They sat with him for 8 days. It's a ministry of presence. It's you say more by being present than you do by being clever. See, people need somebody to skin them sometimes. It's like this little boy. There's a little boy, and he got ready to go to bed one night. And he got up in his bed, and he got scared. He was lonely. It was dark. And he flipped out a little bit, and he ran down the stairs, and he told his mate, he says, "Hey, I'm scared." And I said, "That's fine." Just like most parents do, they found a good excuse you. They said, just go up to your bed and lay down, and when you get scared, just ask Jesus to come and lay down beside you. So he goes up there. A few minutes later, you've all heard it before. Here it comes again. Hey, I'm scared up here. It's dark. I don't want to be by myself. And they said, just go up and lay down. And when you lay down, just say, Jesus, come and lay down beside me. And here he goes up the stairs. And it's not long before here he comes again, as all those parents have been there, and he says, hey, I'm still scared. And they said, ask Jesus to lay down beside you. He said, I need someone with skin on. You know what I'm saying? We can tell people we'll pray for them all day, but sometimes you just got to show up. We want to be like Jesus, we've got to show up. It's a ministry of presence. Look here, Job chapter 2. When Job's three friends, Eliphaz, the Temanite, Bildad, the Shuhite, and Zophar, the Naamathite, there we go, heard about all these troubles that had come upon him, they set out from their homes and met together by agreement to go and comfort, to go and sympathize with him and comfort him. And when they saw him from a distance, they could hardly recognize him. And they began to weep aloud, and they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads. So they give him a hard time, but they loved him. You know, they come out, they look bad in this story, but they loved him. They saw him, and they're heartbroken. And they don't have any answers. See, and then verse 13, then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. And no one said a word to him, because they saw how great his suffering was. How many friends do you have that will show up and sit in the dust with you for 7 days? How many friends do you have that will tear their clothes and lay in the filth of their own demise for 7 days? He had friends that loved him. You know, in the book of Job, we give them such a hard time, but before they said anything, they sat. They had compassion for Job. They loved Job. They wept for him and with him. And they sat in the dust next to him for 7 days and didn't say a word. You know, we give them a hard time because they start saying things to Job about him sinning. And that being why he was going through what he was going through. Oh, man, you shouldn't even said anything, guys. You know, but see, we can see that God put Job in that position. But they couldn't see that. Job couldn't even see that. And we can see that he ends okay, that he gets back a lot of his wealth and things go good for Job and he lives a long life. And we can see that, but they can't see that. But I understand why they did what they did. I understand why they felt like they needed to talk, because it was the only thing that made sense to them. Our human mind cannot fathom suffering for no reason. We just can't. We think that there has to be a reason why we suffer. So when we don't have a reason, we naturally try to create one. And that's where we mess up. Sometimes it's okay to say, I don't know how to get it. When Shelton and Samantha Brown lost their first son, you know, Miss Gloria used to go here. It was her grandson. You know, I didn't have any words to say to him. I remember talking to Randy and Katie. We're like, this is terrible. This is bad. And then a year later, when they lost their second one, then I said, I don't even know how to approach him. What do you tell somebody? I don't have any words for that. But what can we do? We can come and sit silent. We can wait. It's a ministry of presence. First, you know, I want to be a servant leader. I want to lead by showing an example of being able to get in the mud. And then the second is, you know, sometimes I just got to show up in places where are not comfortable for me so that I can be a comfort to somebody else. And if the church would be good at that, we would never have a problem growing. We got to show up. John Maxwell said that he does 5 things every day. And if you do these 5 things, they'll radically change 2019. Here it is. John Maxwell's 5 things to change your 2019. He said, I value people. Every day, I value people. Next, he says, I think of ways to add value to people. He says, I look for ways to add value to people. Then I do things that value people. And then I encourage others to value people. Why? Because if you've done it to the least instead of being frustrated by people, put off by people, and building up walls, what if you found the things you could bless them by? What if you could speak life into them when they couldn't see it for themselves? What if you could be an example to them? What if you could encourage them? Somehow you could find a way to talk their language. You know, I know some people are difficult. I've had people in my life that I couldn't have ever said the right thing to. It just seemed like they had different ears than everybody else. You know, if you told them they looked nice, they had a problem with that. If you told them they weren't perfect, they had a problem with that. And it was always negative. It was always negative. But what I'm saying is we can find ways to add values to people. What if every day, everywhere you went, you valued people? See, people are not supposed to be a platform to get you where you want to be. People are supposed to be the reason that you want to be better. My friend taught me this lesson. He said, you got to walk slow through the crowd, man. He said, you can't love the crowd and hate the people. In other words, you can't just come through here, oh, I'm headed for the stage. I'm going to get to the stage, and I'm going to preach, and I'm going to just... No, it's more like this. Hey, David, how you doing, buddy? How's your week been? Hey, Russ, how you doing? You know, you got to love people. You got to walk slow. You can't pass by people. I tell you, when we say the prayer here, and I know we've got another service, we try to rush out of here, and some of you, you've already cranked the car during from your keys during the altar call, and you speed out of here, and there's a dust cloud, you know? Every now and then, wouldn't it be nice just to go over and ask somebody else how they're doing? I can't get to all of you, so you're going to have to get to each other. You got to think of ways to be a blessing. You got to start your day with, not with, what do I need to be happy? How about start your day with, who can I make happy? And how can I make them happy? I know this as a teen and a young adult, and even now, I have a longing for people to see the potential in me and believe that I have what it takes to do great things. That's just something that I've always wanted and always needed, and it's always so valuable. Even when no one was telling me that God put it in my heart that He had a plan for me, that I was special to Him, and that I was set apart, and that I had an anointing. I believe that God will encourage you when you need encouragement. So when no one encouraged me, this is what I do. I do like David. You know, it says that David encouraged himself in the Lord. You know, sometimes you don't get the pat on the back that you know. But it doesn't change your destiny. It doesn't change who God's got you for. It doesn't change what He wants to do with you. So you know what I do now? When I work with and pray for teachers, leaders, my elders and young people, I try to encourage them by speaking into their life words of affirmation. Man, you're going to do great. God, thank you. You know, you do well at this. Why? Because those words, when they come from me, were like water to my soul. I've had people write me letters. When I was the worst leader at Edgewood and I was starting out, people would write me letters. And one letter was enough to fill me for an entire season. That's why I have a letter ministry here. It's because letters matter. People like getting a letter. It's good to get encouragement from somebody. And, you know, this whole thing of secret places like this, when I've given God my time, He's multiplied my harvest. He's multiplied my harvest. I have to say, at 35, I've been part of tons of ministries. I've served in multiple roles and experienced the love of God deeply. I have a beautiful wife. I have a son who I love and loves me. I would guarantee there's probably nobody else that probably loves me more than Elijah loves me. And then I have a daughter who is my princess. If someone asked me what I was lacking, I would have to lie to come up with an answer. I don't lack for anything. When you make your focus God and people, He will make His focus you. How do I get God's attention? I love His people. And you know what it does for you? When you quit being selfish and thinking of you and you start putting all of your attention on somebody else, you know what it does? It satisfies your soul. Unselfish servanthood is the key to happiness and contentment. It's what Jesus modeled. Other kings wanted people to worship at their feet, but Jesus bent down to wash those feet. Others said, fight for me and die for me, and Jesus instead fought and died for you. He's your soul's purpose. I was getting ready at Buddy's funeral to take the stage, and I looked to my left, and there was Randy and Kadra, and I looked to my right, and there was Rick, and I thought, man, how blessed am I to associate with such great men. I remember this verse when I was preparing, Proverbs 13:20, walk with the wise and become wise. For a companion of fools suffers harm. So what I've learned is that, man, I'm not less by being around them. I'm better by their company. You know what I do? If I'm a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, I walk with people who are 10s. Why? So that I might become an 8. Because you become who you're around. And I don't hang with people who ain't got a purpose. I don't hang with people who don't believe in destiny. I don't hang with people who aren't on fire for Jesus. Why? Because you're elevated by your influence. You want to be a better leader? Could be a servant leader. You want to be more influential? Practice the ministry of presence. And then, be elevated by the influence that surrounds you. The disciples were supercharged upon the resurrection of Jesus. If he could overcome death, what on earth could overcome me? It's powerful. If he could suffer and die, then they could suffer and die. See, you'll become whatever you allow to have influence in your life. People used to tell me, they'd say, if you lie with dogs, you'll get fleas. The reality is this, is when you lay with dogs, you become a dog, and the fleas are just a byproduct. Because you become like whoever you're around. So, you know what I want to do in ministry? I want to walk with warriors. Lion slayers. That's the people I want to be around. And on Thursday, I walked with warriors. And on Sunday, when Buddy was passing away and when all this had happened and the family was hurting, and I knew I just needed to go where they were. I was getting ready, and I was like, I find out from Cater in a meeting, but I'm like, well, where are they? I just need to go where they are. That's who I am. I'm supposed to be there. And I go to turn around, and Tyler Ramsey hits me up, and he says, hey, you want me to go with you? Why? Because warriors walk with warriors. And he said, well, I'll drive, come on. And we went. And you know what? I didn't have to worry about that. I didn't have to worry about getting from one place to the next. Why? Because he took me where I needed to go. Why? Because he set his game up. And when you walk with warriors, you get a warrior as a companion. And I'll tell you, it's not easy. You don't always know what to do in those situations. But you have no influence if you do not show up. It's easy to hide out in the house. Somebody told me today, they were talking to me, they said, we sing that song, I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. But yet they never do anything that would even cause them to fear. They take no risk. I can just see myself in my recliner kick back watching the football game singing, I'm no longer a slave to fear. Well, what do you have to be afraid of? That the popcorn's going to run out? I mean, what are you going to do? Every now and then you need to take a step that puts you in a situation where you can actually sing that because you have a dependence on God. Sometimes we might not do anything to hand out a tissue, but that may be the greatest job there is in the eyes of Jesus. In reality, what part of my job is more important, preaching or serving tissues during someone's workday? Because let me tell you, they won't remember my sermon, but they'll remember my presence. So what do? We get in the mud. And we lead by pushing up. And we get low so that others can go higher. And then I show up. Why? Because a warm body in times of trouble can warm a broken heart. How can I feel the presence of Jesus? How can I serve Jesus? How can I get a hug from Jesus? When I did it under the least of these. He said I did it. Randy, would you come this morning? We want to be better this year. We want to make an impact. You got to be focused on God, number one. But number two, you got to love people. You got to love people. You got to love them right where they're at in their mess, in their nastiness, maybe in their foul mouth, maybe they're in an abusive relationship, maybe they're in addiction. You got to love people right where they're at because you know what? People are messed up. You're messed up. The only way that we don't feel messed up is when we compare ourselves to somebody who's worse than us. Isn't that right? And so what I'm saying today is, you know what? Remember this verse. When you did it unto the least of these, you did it unto me. How can I serve Jesus? I can serve Jesus. That's what the altar is open this morning. People who want to love people with you. The people who want to serve people and watch what God does with you. Because if you want to be different, value people. Let's stand together. take those things that you're feeling on the inside and you'll focus on other people, and if you will love them, even though you're hurting, God will come and heal your hurting. If you'll focus on somebody else, God will focus on you. If we put our attention on the people He loves, He puts His attention on us. And you know what we do? We get our eyes off ourselves and onto somebody else. And when we take our eyes off ourselves and we look out, we see other people hurting, and our troubles, our pains, our problems don't feel as big. Let me pray for you this morning. God, you want to do something great. Lord, there's people here, God, that love you. They're seeking you, and they're going to find you like they've never found you before. You're going to work in their life like you've never worked in their life before. We're going to love people, and we're going to value people. And when we do, it's going to change lives, and it's going to fill this place radically, God. When people realize that this is the house of love, God, they'll want to come in here and bask in it, God. When they realize that the people here care about them, they'll come in here with an expectation to receive, God. And I praise you for that, God. That, Lord, when we delight in serving the least of these, we've delighted in you, God. So make it happen, God, I pray. Lord, we give you honor, we give you praise, we give you glory. In your name I pray. Two announcements, I guess it's the same one, but two different situations. Life groups tonight. The Martin Life Group is now the Martin and Lloyd Life Group. It will be at Brett Morey's house tonight. And so you can get with them and get the address there. What is the menu? Tailgate? It's tailgate food. We like tailgate food. It's just a big slather of everything. And then Randy, Lakewood Group tonight.
Yes. Breakfast food.
Breakfast food. We didn't want to go like green foods tonight.
No, we started to say bacon.
All things bacon. But if you haven't, I'll tell you again, if you are not part of the life group, you are missing something. It is valuable to this church. It is life-changing. So be part of that, I would encourage you. Also, be part of this Wednesday night is not our Bible studies. We're having a joint worship service in here. Wednesday night, we're going to worship together. We're going to call on God to come on and to keep coming to our services and keep blessing us. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to pour a blessing out on Him Wednesday night. Would you get ready for that? Because you want to be here for that this Wednesday night at 6:30. Thank you for being here. Check on those who aren't here and continue to pray for the 11